Okay, this homework help is going to go through both sides of the worksheet. Now, your quiz is going to you're going to have to do pretty much everything that's on this homework. So this is going to be a good review. So I'm going to go over one of each on the front page, and I'm going to talk a little more about the back. Feel free to fast forward or skip over things that you don't need help with. So in number 1, you just have to complete the function table. So I'm going to go to number 4 because I think this one's a little bit trickier, and I'll help you with this one. Now, the reason I'm helping you with this one is because in the function table they give you the output, and you have to work backwards to get the input. So if I had the input number, I would just take it because it's x and divide by 2. So going backwards, I have to undo that and multiply by 2. So if I take each output number times 2, I'll write the input. Let me do thinner pen here. 4 times 2 is 8, and 5 times 2 is 10. And I can check it by writing it in the rule. So remember, these red numbers are the x's, so 4 divided by 2 is 2. 8 divided by 2 is 4, and 10 divided by 2 is 5. So that's how you do 4. Let's go down to 5, 6, 7, and 8. So I am going to, let me see, I'm going to see if I can find, all right, I'm just going to do number 5, just so you know how to do all 3 parts of this. So the directions say, use words and symbols to describe the value of each term as a function of its position. Then find the value of the 16th term. All right, 3 things you got to do. So I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to figure out what we're doing to each position to get the value. Let me start here. So I see 2 plus 6 could get me 8, but 3 plus 6 is 9, so that's not the rule. 2 times 4 can get me 8. 3 times 4 is 12, 4 times 4 is 16, 5 times 4 is 20. So I know I'm going to be multiplying by 4. Now I'm going to actually write that here. So I'm going to write down, for example, 2 times 4, 3 times, I'm not going to write them for all of them, but I do want to write it for n times 4 because this is going to get me my symbols. Also, remember it said find the value of the 16th term, so I'm going to make an extra column for 16, and when I multiply by 4, I'll get that. So let's go back to words. Now, I know it sounds complicated when it says to describe the value of each term as a function of the position. What they just want to know is what are you doing to the position number to get the term. So for this, I'm just going to say you multiply the position number by 4. So let me pause it and write that. Okay, so that's words. You multiply the position number by 4. Symbols, remember here where I had the n and I wrote the times 4? Well, that's going to be symbols. Just don't do n times 4 with the x. Remember how we write that in algebra is 4n. So that's the symbols. And the value of the 16th term, remember here how I added 16? If you do 16 times 4, you'll get the 16th term. And 16 times 4 is 64. So that's all you have to do for those 4 problems. Now, let's go to the back, because this is going to be a little more involved. Now, I'm going to start here. Just going to give you some tips, and I'll go over a few. So in this one, for 9 and 10, it says write an equation to represent each function. Now, 9 is a little simpler, so I'm not going to go over that one. But remember, start the equation with y equals. 10 is a little more complicated, so I'm going to go over that one with you guys. So, just like in 9, I'm going to start my equation with y equals. Now, I will tell you on the quiz, a big mistake people make is they're not going to write the y equals, and they'll just have an expression and they'll get it wrong. So when I'm looking here, I'm looking, what do I do from 1 to get 5? Could it be plus 4? 2 plus 4 is 6, not 7, so it's not addition. Could it be times 5? 1 times 5 is 5, 2 times 5 is 10. So that's a hint that this is going to be a more complicated rule. It's going to be a 2-stepper rule. So to do that, we go down the output. 5 to 7 is plus 2, plus 2, plus 2. So if the output number is skip counting by 2, that means my equation starts with 2x. Now, multiplying x by 2 isn't going to get me all the way. So 1 times 2 is 2, 2 times 2 is 4, 3 times 2 is 6, 4 times 2 is 8. Now I have to use addition to get the rest of the way. So how do I go from 2 to 5 and 4 to 7, 6 to 9 and 8 and 11? To go the rest of the way, I have to add 3. So after you multiply by 2, you then have to add 3 to get to the output number. So my rule is my equation is y equals 2x plus 3. All right, so be ready for those more complicated two-steppers. Now number 11, I am not going to do, but I am going to give you a hint. So my hint would be to make an XY table. Okay, and then come up with a couple values of x. I usually use 0, 1, 2, 3. And then take these values 0, 1, 2, and 3 and put them in the equation. So do 5 times 0 plus 1 to get your y. 5 times 1 plus 1 to get your y here. Once you get these will be ordered pairs that you will graph on your graph over there. So I'm not going to go over that one completely, but that's how you'll do that. Now for these last ones, I'm not going to do, but I'm going to explain them. It says, 1 water filter will clean 40 gallons of water. So number 12 says write an equation to find G, the total number of gallons cleaned by any numbers of filters. I would hold off on 12 until I do 13. In 13, it says make a function table to show the relationship between the number of filters F and the total number of gallons G. So I would first fill in my function table. And as far as the numbers, remember you can pick any number you want here because this is the independent variable. It can be anything. I usually, to make my life easier, pick 0, 1, 2, and 3. Now remember, up here it says 1 water filter will clean 40 gallons of water. So if you have 0 filters, you're not going to clean any water. 1 filter will clean 40. 2, and you have to figure that out. 3, and you have to figure that out. Now, after you get your table finished, then you have to write your equation. Now, remember I said we normally start with y equals, or in a sentence when it says write an equation to find G. Now, notice this one isn't an xy. Oops, I have to put on pen. It's an fg. So instead of starting with y equals, you're going to start with g equals. So when you write your equation, it should be g equals something. Now, to figure out what g equals, you are going to figure out how you go from f to g. What is the rule to get the rest of your equation? Last, graph the ordered pairs. You will take your ordered pairs 0, 0, graph it there. 140, graph it there. So do that for all of your ordered pairs and you should have 14 done. Alright, remember, your test looks a lot like this homework, so be ready for it. Thanks, guys.